Member of Parliament in his weekly address says that social media has taken over and is not happy with some of them. Chief of Police says that the blocking of the borders is only for emergencies. But first up, Prime Minister says supermarkets are now allowed to deliver groceries to residents. Those are the headlines for Tuesday, April the 7th, 2020. This is SXM Daily News. I'm Valerie Van Putten. Now for the details. Prime Minister Mrs. Sylvia Jacobs has announced in her national address via video conference on Monday evening, April the 6th, 2020, that due to the total emergency shutdown, supermarkets will now be allowed to do island-wide delivery of groceries in their districts and also to the neighboring islands as well.
I would like to announce the following. All food suppliers will be allowed to do deliveries as of tomorrow, April 7th, to clients, which includes smaller grocery stores, as well as deliveries to the French side and shipments to the neighboring islands. This also includes deliveries to their clients, individual clients, who will be doing their orders via email, via WhatsApp, or via phone. Contact numbers and emails will be published via DCOM for persons to order from the supermarkets or grocery store nearest them, only for urgently needed items. This decision was taken seeing that many feel that the persons on St. Martin who were unable to do their shopping for groceries over the past few days prior to the shutdown would feel an urgent need and therefore resort to breaking the laws. Also, the supermarkets brought forth that they had many perishable items, which if they were able to deliver those, that this would not then go to waste. I would allow this to happen as long as all adhere to the regulations in place to do so. The supermarkets have received the conditions under which they're allowed to do deliveries, being 1, that they would submit the proper waiver document for their workers who are needed internally to package boxes, as well as for their delivery service. Also, they must ensure that all of their employees involved in this scheme are healthy. No one who is ill is allowed to work. The supermarket and/or supplier will be held responsible if thus is allowed. All deliveries must be on a no-contact basis, whereby the deliveries will be brought to the door or to the facility, and that the payment is either made upfront or when it takes place of encounters as little contact as possible. All of the supermarkets, including small groceries, will facilitate this delivery system as per their capacity. Therefore, if a supermarket is only able to do 20 or 30 deliveries in a day, then you will be informed when you make your order on what day or time you can expect your delivery. All supermarkets will remain closed to the public. Therefore, you are not allowed to go to the supermarket or grocery store from your home. Later this week, the EOC will take the decision regarding the allowance of individuals who may not have benefited from the delivery system to be incorporated tomorrow, to allow them to be able to move in the districts where they live according to their last names. This will be taken later this week, and the general public will be updated as to whether this will be allowed or not. Of course, the feasibility of the enforcement of such a movement has to be taken with the police department along with their stakeholders, as the main reason for this strict lockdown is so that we can contain the virus, thereby minimizing movement of people.
The Prime Minister also updated the community and has announced that the doctor's offices will also remain open, but for emergencies only. Patients can call 911 or 912 for real emergencies. She elaborates.
I also would like to update the general public that in a meeting held today with ESF 6 and the general practitioners, the doctors, it was ascertained that doctors' offices will remain open, especially for emergencies, and to allow doctors to work from their offices to stay in contact with their clients and patients. The doctors will continue to serve their patients on the phone or online, and all patients needing to see their GPs face-to-face should send that request, or the request would come from the GP to the Minister of Health, who will sign off on those approvals, which allow the patient to move from either his or her home, to the doctor's office or to the pharmacies. Patients are asked to stay in contact with their GPs. All of the numbers have been published on government's website, and only to call 911 or 912 for real emergencies that cannot be dealt with by the GP. If too many emergencies are going to the non-emergencies, are going to the emergency room, this will cause a further burnout, which is unnecessary, as we would like emergency personnel at the hospital to only be dealing with real emergencies. As you know, we have COVID-19 related emergencies as well as regular emergencies. And as so many are off the roads, we do then hope and expect that there will be zero, for instance, accidents that would cause any calls to go to the emergency and to our ambulance. Prescriptions will be sent via email or WhatsApp to the pharmacies, which will then facilitate delivery to the patients. I'm hoping this is now clear to all GPs as well as patients, and including those quarantined and isolated persons who need to also remain in good contact with their GPs so that they are properly monitored should their symptoms become worse, or in terms of our quarantined, should they start to have symptoms at all.
And head of the Public Health and coordinator of ESF6, Fenna Arnell, gives an update on coronavirus as it pertains to the St. Martin Medical Center, access to general practitioners, and the pharmacies.
A dedicated isolation area that is, first of all, aimed towards providing isolation for persons who are unable to isolate due to their living circumstances, so persons who live in households with a large number of persons but are unable to separate themselves from each other, from the rest of the household, as well as persons who are not adhering to the isolation guidelines. That will be the so-called mandated isolation. As it pertains to the St. Martin Medical Center, the pavilion, the pavilion has been erected, and during the course of the week, we will be able to give a better update on when the pavilion will be operational, but the main construction works are expected to be ready by the end of this week. As it relates to access to your GPs, the GP clinics can only receive emergency visits from their patients. However, GPs and their staff are waived in order to provide telephone consultation to their clients. This is also the same for the pharmacies. The pharmacies will have will update their schedules, and that'll be available on DCOM for their opening hours. And some pharmacies will be providing delivery to their clients, but on DCOM you would be able to receive that information.
And still to come, radio personality Billy D is pleading with residents on French St. Martin to stop coming out. I'll have the details of that story and more when SXM Daily News returns.
GEBE has been faithfully serving the communities of St. Martin, powering your home and our economy. Come rain or shine, our qualified team of professionals are working hard 24 hours a day to provide you and your family with safe, reliable electricity and water. We use the latest technologies and test our products daily to maintain the highest international standards. Our friendly staff is always there to assist you, whether in person, over the phone, or online. We are committed to constantly improving our products and services, making them more efficient, effective, and environmentally friendly to serve you better today and our next generation of clients tomorrow. GEBE, powering a brighter future.
Our friend Megawati is here with tips to save you energy. 1. Turn your air temperature up. 2. Use a ceiling fan instead. 3. Buy energy-saving products. Save some green with NVGEBE.
Member of Parliament Claudius Boncamper says that social media has taken over. Some viral videos that are circulating are sick. He is asking the public to respect the people's privacy and refrain from putting them online. He says you don't have to put everything up. He further elaborates.
And I think some of these videos that go viral on social media, people are sick. You don't have to put everything of somebody when they're in need on social media. Nobody is asking you for that. So please don't do it. Respect people's privacy in that form or fashion. But newspapers do it too because they love to put on top of their front page the sensationalized news. Somebody lying down there in the street, they'll put that there instead of putting that a youngster excelled in sports. That we lose it in the middle of the page. And social media has now taken over that role in the media, unfortunately. But please understand that national health trumps at all times privacy. If you don't tell us where the people in self-isolation are, then we are seriously asking for bigger problems than we can handle. I am not asking you to tell me the person's name is ABCD, but at least tell us the area and the address so that people can understand where the problems lie. The good gentleman that passed away a few days back comes of an area that is congested with people living on top of each other. Now, please understand that this can have a serious consequence now because he was at home when he passed. Nobody knows who was with him, who was in contact with him, whom have they been in contact with, so you start a snowball effect. That's all I'm trying to say right now. The EOC has to seriously consider national health above personal privacy at this point in time. If we truly are geared at stopping this pandemic dead in its tracks. Telling people they can't move around is not going to stop it. We don't have enough police nor military on this island to ensure that people stay in their house. People are going to come out and walk around in the districts. We have to stretch their legs and not go crazy. They're going to do it. And that means if there are people in the districts that have the virus, the chance of interaction is too big to take for granted. Just sending a fair warning because this is something that is going to have a very serious effect on this country. The another problem, or the another effect that I believe we have to be very cautious with is the economic recovery and the stimulus plan. Both of these things have their own merits. You have the SHTA, for example, that covers the hospitality and the trade, asking for serious financial injections into their businesses. Otherwise, within 3 months, we might have a doom and gloom situation on this island where 45% of the population will not have a job. You know, this country doesn't have that kind of cash resource in its budget. We can't borrow on the international market unless the Dutch allows us to. That's unfortunately part of the reality of where we are in our charter. We are financial prisoners in our own kingdom, compliments of the charter. But it is not time to worry about that constitutional matter right now. There will be times when we can deal with that on the floor of Parliament, in EPCO, etc., etc. What is important, though, is that all organizations, including government, understands that we're going to have to make do with whatever we get. But whatever we get, we have to understand our position in the kingdom. Because when the French Prime Minister ripped asunder the Dutch Finance Minister, Premier Rutte and Mr. Knops and the same Mr. Hoekstra all found it fitting right now to make 1 billion euros available in a fund, a coronavirus fund, for their European partners. Free of charge. Free of charge. But their own kingdom partners, Aruba, Curacao, and St. Martin, we are going to be confined to restrictions. We are going to get a loan that we have to pay back.
And in news from French St. Martin, radio personality on SOS Radio, Jacques Hamlet, better known as Billy D, speaks out on the breakout of COVID-19 in Sandy Ground, Agremont, and Concordia. He doesn't understand why the coronavirus is raging in those areas, but he is pleading with the people to stop coming out. According to Billy D, the coronavirus is spreading.
And the people in these districts need to know the truth. And I want you to, again, I say, call your family, call somebody. Because what I'm going to say, I don't know if I have the courage to say it twice. But I'm going to say as best as I can. I'm angry, I'm mad. Because I don't understand how people are not understanding what is happening today, not in St. Martin, in the world. I'm going to tell you this, St. Martin, and then I'm going to listen to your WhatsApp after. The places in St. Martin today that are terrible with coronavirus, and this, I ain't asking nobody, I ain't repeating what somebody tell me. I'm saying what I know. I'm saying what I know because if I say this, maybe I'm going to save somebody's life today in one of these districts. The district that are terrible in St. Martin with the coronavirus is Concordia, Sandy Ground, and Agremont. I'm saying to the people, especially in these districts this morning, I'm saying again, and I told the authorities I'm going to say this in the best way I can, because this is what I'm here for. Where the coronavirus is raging, where the coronavirus in our English is kicking hell in this country, they are confined to die. They are going to die. I'm saying to the people in Sandy Ground, I'm saying to the people in Concordia, I'm saying to the people in Agremont, by extension, the people in this country, please stop coming out. A lot of people in these districts are going to die. The coronavirus is spreading. You know, I want to say this, and I spoke to a couple gendarmes. They're giving up. They're disappointed because they're being insulted just by saying stay home. I said this from the beginning. This is not a fight with the authorities, my friends. If we want to win this fight, we need to stay home. I'm saying to the people that living in Concordia, Sandy Ground, in Agremont, this is what they say. This is what Billy D telling you this morning. If you don't keep it under control, a lot of us are going to die.
Now turning to our weather forecast for April the 7th, 2020. Lingering moisture associated with a weak shear line will result in cloudy periods and possible isolated showers across the region. A weak Atlantic high-pressure ridge will maintain light to gentle winds. Seas will remain slight to moderate during the next few days. Now let's turn to your 3-day forecast. And still to come, Prime Minister says to reserve requests for personal waiver for emergencies only. I'll have the details of that story and more when SXM Daily News returns.
Make use of WIB mobile banking with easy access and direct usage of face recognition, PIN code, or fingerprint. Download WIB mobile banking app and make your transaction from anywhere at any time. For more information, visit wib-bank.net/quick-login.
And as we continue now with the news, Chief of Police Carl John says that the blocking of the borders is only for emergencies. It will be limited movement on both borders. It is for essential and emergency, according to the Chief of Police. And according to him, he says it is not business as usual.
Indeed, we will be limiting movement between the two sides at the borders at French at Belvedere and at Bellevue. So the other two parts will be physically closed. Those movements are only for essential and emergency. This morning already, we received nearly 100 requests for movement on that side of St. Martin. I want to emphasize that it's not business as usual. The permission to move is only granted for essential and emergencies. We should try to adhere to this as much as possible.
Meanwhile, Prime Minister says that they have gotten over 1,000 personal travel waiver requests. The Prime Minister says that this is an inordinate amount and to reserve these waivers for urgent reasons only.
Today, the police has noted that over 1,000 persons have requested emergency waivers. We find this an inordinate amount. We would like to ask the general public to reserve these waivers or the use of waivers for urgent reasons only. If we have 1,000 persons who are not essential personnel moving on the roads, this will not help with the shutdown and therefore cause it to go much longer. Patience and discipline. If it is not an urgent matter, stay at home. Do not even request it. Persons who are taking care of the elderly, of course, are allowed, and this would fall now under medical, so this should go to the Minister of Health. That is richard.panafleck at stmartingov.org. This will also come out via DCOM, that people can see this on our website, so you do not have to memorize what I just said, but all emergencies related to health, the waiver form, and only a waiver form. Don't just send a random email. The minister can only sign off on actual waiver forms. So if it's an urgent matter that is medically related, you have to sign the personal waiver form. If it is a professional form, so if you work for a GP, a general practitioner, or you work at the pharmacy and you do not have a disaster pass, you need to have a professional waiver. This will be sent to the minister to be signed off. If you are working for SMMC, the ambulance department, or any other emergency medical, you should have your own disaster pass. Again, any medical personnel needed that don't have a disaster pass should have a professional waiver that will then be signed off by the Minister of Health, Mr. Richard Panafleck.
And still to come, President of WIFO says that poverty eradication may not be realized by the year 2030. And I'll have the details to that story and more when SXM Daily News returns. And as we continue now with SXM Daily News, President of the WIFO, speaking on workers' job security, Mr. Thompson says that in 2015, commitments were made by world powers and former colonizers to eradicate poverty by the year 2030. However, he is afraid that because of this pandemic, it may not be realized by 2030.
In 2015, there were 17 commitments made by the world powers, former colonizers, and still controlling our controllers of world economies, that by the year 2030, everything should be under control. Well, we know that the Most High is to control everything, but still commitment made by mankind has to be lived up to. And poverty eradication is one of those things, and how things are happening right now because of the pandemic. Many families might go into poverty. It's our job to help and discuss how that eradication can take place and be implemented. The signature that by the year 2030 there should be no more hunger in the world is something very significant, and that is why meetings between the social partners, both government, employers, and trade unions, is important, very relevant in these times. On the local market and local scene, the trade unions have been busy monitoring and discussing with employers and owners of businesses their plans, what they intend to do with regards to reduction of work week and even laying off of workers. And that is where the Ministry of Labor and the Minister of Labor and that whole department has to begin to come into play and work with the trade unions, and there are 8 trade unions which form this umbrella body, representing from private to public employees, and all are affected. So therefore, these dialogues are essential, and that's why we are demanding, are requesting that our top leadership recognize what is referred to as social dialogue and partnership, relationship, and dialogue.
And as we end this edition of SXM Daily News, in an effort to help protect frontline workers and vulnerable groups against the highly infectious coronavirus COVID-19 disease, the St. Martin Suchi Foundation has donated a number of masks to a number of critical organizations for the added protection of their workers and clients. In recent days, a large quantity of masks were donated to representatives of the St. Martin Police Force, Point Blanche Prison, Miss Lally Center Youth Detention Facility, Home Away from Home Taking Care of the Elderly Foundation, the Hope Estate Recreational Center for the Elderly, Hurricane Irma Integration Shelter, as well as to individual volunteers and community leaders who are constantly out assisting persons in the community. Sandra Chung said that Suchi is grateful for the opportunity to be able to assist, as she thanked the various organizations for graciously accepting the donations. Some additional masks are expected to be received soon, as they too will be distributed. The release reads in part. And this brings us to the end of SXM Daily News for this evening, the 7th of April, 2020. I'm Valerie Van Putten. Just a reminder that this and other programs are available online. Simply log on to stmartinmediacenter.com for viewing. And on behalf of the SXM Daily News team, we thank you for watching and plan on meeting you right back here again tomorrow.